Hello, folks. This is Chris, KY4CKP. This week on LCARA Ham Radio, we discover that ham radio can exist outside the shack, even in the dirt and water. That's what's coming up next on LCARA Ham Radio. Well, folks, here we are. We're running around McCreary County, Kentucky, and we just wanted to share some of this footage we've captured for you. We've been doing a lot of work for this upcoming gravel rally car race and looking for locations to set up our ham radio equipment so that we can help provide communications for the race and the drivers for safety and regular communications and things. And it's kind of interesting when you get into the back roads of where you may live here in South Central Kentucky. You never know where this adventure is going to take you. So we've been, again, spending several days running around this pretty rural county and looking for good spots. The races are going to be on some really interesting, back gravel roads and things. And we've had to use some Forest Service roads and things to get up to the top of some of the ridges in here to be able to put up our radio communications. And I just wanted to share some footage with you all that we've captured on a couple of days that we've been running around out here. We participate in our hobby, and we sometimes get the mindset we're going to be in the shack, right? We're going to be in the basement, in the spare bedroom, the garage, wherever our shack is set up, and that's where we're going to play radio, or maybe we're in our vehicle, and we do those things. We certainly do those things and have a good time in those locations. But ham radio can be a lot more than that. Whether it's parks on the air activations, summits on the air activations, simply traveling down the road. Back when I used to travel a lot, that's one of the reasons why I like having a radio in my car, including an HF radio. Because if I'm going to spend 6 or 8 hours driving someplace, it's certainly a form of entertainment for myself on top of the regular radio or audiobooks or anything else. So like I say, we just wanted to share some of this footage with you all, just to show you some of what we've seen going out and doing this stuff. We certainly didn't really set out to do any off-roading, but we turned in to have a little bit of that adventure here. And so like I say, we wanted to just show that and show some of this beautiful country. Of course, it's still early spring, so most of the leaves aren't on the tree yet. You won't even be able to see all that much once all the leaves come in, because it just really cuts down your visibility. It'll be beautiful, of course, and green. And it'll be more like that once the gravel rally comes around. The gravel rally is slated for April 30th here in 2022. So it was just really interesting. We've been driving around these roads and just found ourselves in some unexpected adventures. And of course, that can happen for sure. Whether you're driving around town, you get into a part of town you've maybe never been to before, and maybe took a wrong turn. So KY4BDP, Brian and myself, and KK4YUG Steve, for quite a bit of this, we've been setting up, trying to make sure that we can hit the points that we're going to want to hit for the communications on the race. And again, we've kind of found some interesting places along the way. So here we are setting out. We're at the McCreary County Park and Fairgrounds, and that's where headquarters for the race is going to be. And that's where our club is going to have our emergency communications trailer set up. And we've done a lot of videos on the build of that trailer and showing it and using that trailer. So here we're heading out, and my brother's got his F-150 two-wheel drive truck, and I've got my Toyota Tacoma TRD off-road, which I have made a few modifications to so that it is pretty capable for some off-road adventures, and I've done a few of those already. Didn't really expect to use them for these days that we're going out and doing the work for this gravel rally. You're thinking gravel roads, right? How rough can it get? Well, in some of these shots, you can see there's overcast skies in some of this. Some of the days were pretty, but we'd had a pretty severe storm come through for part of this. And so something we'll see here as we watch the footage is there were limbs that had been dropped from trees and blown over the roads, small trees blown over. Some of the bigger ones had already been cleared by the Forestry Service or local residents or whatever. So, of course, you can't start a ham adventure without some food. So, of course, we had to make a quick run through McDonald's here. And then we were off to some of the gravel roads. Well, like I say, one of the things that we needed to do is we need to get up high on the ridge lines, because a lot of the roads that the gravel rallies racers are going to be on are at the bottom of the valleys, along creeks. It's going to be very scenic, but then you can't communicate back to the park where the headquarters is going to be. There's very little cell phone coverage in a lot of this area unless you're on top of one of these ridges, kind of like we see here. So we found a ridge. We got up there on a Forest Service road, and we're setting up an antenna to do some testing. We're going to be setting up some radios in crossband repeater mode to allow us to get from the bottom of the valley to the top of the ridge, and then communicate from the top of the ridge back to the park area. So here we see that we're approaching an offshoot of this gravel road, and you can kind of immediately see it's not as nice looking as the main gravel road we were just on. And as we had approached this, and as we came across this little washout, I got on the radio and called Brian, and I said, hey, this is not looking too good. We may not want to take your truck very far down this path, being that it's two-wheel drive. And I just said, if we want to continue exploring this particular road, we can take my truck because it's set up for this. And he said, okay. He was seeing the road too, and so he just kind of pulled off here on this little spur, and so got in my truck, and we said, well, let's explore this a little further, because we thought this was going to take us to a nice ridge top where it would be a good place to put some of our equipment. Here you can see we're clearing one of those many limbs that we encountered this day and on a few other days. But this road had really degraded very quickly once we got off the main path. And we said, well, we'll see. We'll see if it's going to be able to take us to the top of this ridge. And at least we were relatively comfortable in my truck. But as you probably know, the camera doesn't do this justice. So when you start seeing us going through some of these puddles and the muddy areas and stuff in this area, it's more than it looked like. Some of these puddles were easily a foot deep or more, 10, 15 feet long. And of course, some of this stuff pretty much stretched all the way across the road, because there's a big drop off on the passenger side as we're coming into this. Now, here was another smaller tree kind of bent over the road. We didn't have a chainsaw with us, but Brian was able to get out and kind of get it out of the way for us. There you see a big puddle right in front of us. And again, 8 to 12, 14 inches deep with some mud. Fortunately, again, my truck was set up and prepared and able to handle this. But and we kind of realized pretty soon this was probably not going to be useful for us. But we decided to go into it a little further, as long as I felt comfortable anyway. And so far I was still feeling reasonably confident in my vehicle, but not really expected when you're sort of thinking the world of ham radio that you would get into a pretty noticeable off-road experience. Now, this isn't an extreme off-road experience, but like I say, the camera's not really doing it justice either, because there's a good drop-off there on that passenger side. So just wanted to show you folks, sometimes this is what you get into when you're doing events out for the public. Our club has done bicycle races. We've done a Jeep trail run. We've done foot races, marathons and things back in these foothills. And one reason ham radio tends to get called in for these events, again, cell phone service is usually non-existent in most of these areas. So it was fun going out and kind of exploring some of these roads and things, but not really what we normally expect when we're thinking about, hey, let's play some ham radio. But you can certainly make ham radio what you want it to be. Part of what I'm getting into and my wife is getting into is some off-roading stuff. She's got a 4Runner that we put some modifications on. I've got this Tacoma, and so we've been having a little bit of fun with that and want to continue doing so. But it was interesting to get out in this road and just see how quickly it degraded from a nice gravel road to kind of just a muddy dirt road. There was still some gravel, but a lot of it had sublimated into the dirt. And again, limbs down quite a few different places, not just this footage we're showing you now, but some other areas that, that we had explored over the course of several days now. So I just thought we'd show this because this is definitely, I think, a little bit of a different side of ham radio. If you do have a radio in your rig, and of course we're driving over some small trees there, you can get out and have all kinds of adventures with your radio. 2 meters, 70 centimeters. Again, I've got HF as well. And so, try not to... here's one of the tracks that the drivers are supposed to go through, and it's got this pretty good sized creek in it, and they got to go through this. And so I wasn't really too afraid to go through it this day in my truck, but I'm thinking, man, they're going to have some cars going through that, but I guess the way they're set up, they're going to be able to handle it. So, don't get painted into a box, and don't paint yourself into a box when it comes to enjoying amateur radio. There's all kinds of things, camping, and again, parks on the air, summits on the air. There's all kinds of ways we can enjoy our radios and have a fun time. And I just wanted to share some of this footage with you, some of the behind the scenes of what we're doing to get ready for this national event. And we're going to be setting up in a lot of these areas and hoping to have a lot of fun. So that's going to pretty well wrap it up, folks. This is Chris, KY4CKP. Get out there literally and enjoy your radio. 73.